In the last 72 hours, the Federal Reserve quietly updated its emergency lending facilities protocol. And buried in the fine print is a provision that allows banks to freeze withdrawals above $10,000 during a declared financial emergency. Florida just saw 3 regional banks implement enhanced verification procedures for cash withdrawals over $5,000. This isn't a drill, this is a test run. And if you think your assets are safe because they're digital, diversified, or sitting in a trust, you're about to find out why the government has a roadmap to 5 specific asset classes they will liquidate first when the system cracks. Let's talk about what they are and what you can do right now. Look, if you're tired of watching those polished real estate channels tell you that everything is fine, that the market is stable, that your money is protected by some magical insurance policy, hit that subscribe button right now. Because what I'm about to share with you isn't designed to make you feel comfortable. It's designed to make you prepared. I don't do fluff here. I don't waste your time with 10-minute intros and sponsorship reads before I give you the information you actually need. You clicked on this video because you want the truth about what happens to your wealth when the system destabilizes. So let's get right into it. Here's why you cannot afford to miss what I'm about to tell you. The mainstream media is talking about inflation. They're talking about interest rates. They're talking about whether the housing market is going to crash or if we're headed into a recession. What they are not talking about is the systematic expansion of government seizure mechanisms that are being coded into law right now. In the last 18 months, we have seen 3 major legislative shifts: expanded IRS reporting for crypto transactions, enhanced civil asset forfeiture protocols for local law enforcement, and bipartisan support for emergency economic powers that allow federal agencies to freeze accounts during a declared crisis. This isn't conspiracy theory territory. This is pattern recognition. And if you look at history, if you actually study what governments do when they run out of money, you'll see the same playbook every single time. They don't raise taxes on the wealthy. They don't cut spending. They seize assets from the middle class and call it economic stabilization. They did it in 1933 with gold. They did it in Cyprus with bank accounts. They did it in Argentina with pension funds. And they are building the legal infrastructure to do it here, right now, in 2026. So here's the myth I need to bust before we go any further. A lot of people think that if they keep their assets in a trust or an LLC, they're protected. They think that legal structures are some kind of magic shield that makes them invisible to government oversight. That's false. Trusts and LLCs are public record in Florida. If you do not structure them correctly, offshore components, irrevocable clauses, and non-US trustees, they are just as vulnerable as a checking account. The difference between protected wealth and seized wealth is not how much you have. It is how well you hide the ownership structure. And most people get this wrong because they listen to their local attorney who set up a Florida LLC and told them they're covered. They're not. All right, let's get into the 5 assets. I'm going to go in order from most vulnerable to least vulnerable, and I'm going to explain the legal mechanism they use to take it, the historical precedent, and what you can do right now to protect yourself. Asset number 1 is your bank accounts and cash deposits. This is the lowest hanging fruit in any financial crisis. And the reason is simple. Your money is already in the system. It's digital, it's tracked, and it can be frozen with a keystroke. Let me take you back to 1933. President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed Executive Order 6102, which made it illegal for U.S. citizens to own gold. Not just illegal to trade it, illegal to own it. Citizens were required to surrender their gold to the Federal Reserve at $20.67 per ounce. The government then revalued gold to $35 per ounce. Instant profit for the Treasury. Instant loss for every American who complied. Now, fast forward to 2013. Cyprus, small island nation in the Mediterranean. Banking crisis hits. The government announces that all bank accounts are frozen. If you had more than 100,000 euros in your account, they took a haircut. A percentage of your deposit just disappeared overnight to bail out the banks. People woke up one morning and their savings were gone. No vote, no warning, just gone. And you might be thinking, well, that's Cyprus. That's a tiny country with a fragile banking system. That could never happen here. Really? Because right now, if you walk into a bank in Florida and try to withdraw more than $10,000 in cash, your bank is required to file a currency transaction report with FinCEN. That's the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. They track it, they log it, they want to know why you need cash, and if you make multiple withdrawals just under that threshold, let's say you take out $9,000 3 times in a row, they file a suspicious activity report for structuring. That's a federal crime. You didn't do anything illegal with the money, you just tried to avoid the reporting threshold, and now you're flagged. The infrastructure to monitor and freeze your cash is already in place. It's not theoretical, it's operational. And in the event of a banking crisis or declared national emergency, you can expect immediate capital controls. That means withdrawal limits, that means frozen accounts, that means forced conversion into central bank digital currency, which is already being tested in pilot programs across the country. If your wealth is sitting in a checking account at a regional Florida bank, you are one executive order away from losing access to it. Not losing it permanently, maybe, but losing access. And in a crisis, liquidity is everything. So what do? First, you diversify where your cash is held. Don't keep everything in one bank. Spread it across multiple institutions, ideally some that are not US-based. Second, you keep a portion of your liquidity in physical cash at home. I'm not talking about stuffing your mattress with $100,000. I'm talking about having enough cash on hand to cover 3 to 6 months of expenses if the banks close their doors. Third, you consider moving a portion of your liquid assets offshore into jurisdictions with strong privacy laws and no automatic reporting agreements with the IRS. Places like Singapore, Switzerland, or certain Caribbean nations, but you have to do this legally. You have to report it. The goal is not to evade taxes. The goal is to create a layer of protection so that a domestic crisis doesn't wipe out your liquidity overnight. But cash is obvious. Everyone knows cash is vulnerable. What about the asset class that most people think is untouchable? Your retirement accounts? That's asset number 2. Your 401k, your IRA, your Roth IRA. And here's the truth. Your 401k is not a retirement plan. It is a government-accessible pool of capital. Let me give you 2 examples. In 2008, Argentina was drowning in debt. The government needed money, and they didn't want to default on their bonds because that would destroy their credit rating. So what did they do? They nationalized $30 billion in private pension funds. They took the money that citizens had saved for retirement, transferred it to the state-run system, and used it to pay down government debt. The citizens were given government bonds in exchange, bonds that were worth a fraction of what their pensions were worth. Most people lost 50 to 70% of their retirement savings overnight. Then in 2013, Poland did the same thing. They seized half of the assets in private pension funds and moved them into the government-run system. The justification? Protecting retirees from risky investments. The reality? The government was broke and needed cash. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but that's Argentina. That's Poland. Those are countries with unstable governments and weak institutions. That could never happen in the United States. But here's what you need to understand. In the United States, there have been multiple proposals over the last 15 years to mandate that retirement accounts hold a certain percentage of government bonds. The argument is always framed as protecting retirees from stock market volatility. But what it actually does is force you to lend your money to a government that is running a $34 trillion deficit at below-market interest rates. It's a backdoor wealth transfer. And in 2025, the IRS expanded its reporting requirements for IRA transfers and rollovers. Every movement of funds is now tracked in real time. They know when you open an account. They know when you move money. They know when you take a distribution. The infrastructure is in place to control how and where your retirement money flows. So here's the speculation. In a crisis scenario, you can expect one of 3 things to happen. Option 1. Forced bond purchases. The government mandates that a percentage of your 401k must be invested in Treasury bonds. Option 2. A temporary suspension of withdrawals to stabilize markets. You can't access your money, but don't worry, it's for your own good. Option 3. A wealth tax on retirement accounts above a certain threshold. If you have more than $500,000 in your IRA, you pay a one-time emergency tax of 10 or 15% to fund infrastructure or climate initiatives, or whatever justification they come up with. The only way to protect yourself is to get your retirement money out of the traditional system. That means a self-directed IRA where you control the assets. That means investing in physical gold or real estate held in offshore jurisdictions. That means using a Roth conversion strategy to move taxable money into a Roth IRA and then diversifying into hard assets that are not subject to U.S. custodian control. It's more complicated. It requires planning. But the alternative is watching your retirement disappear when the government decides it needs your money more than you do. All right, asset number 3, real estate. And I know what you're thinking. Real estate? How are they going to seize my house? I own it. It's in my name. There's a deed. Let me explain how this works, because most people have no idea how vulnerable their real estate actually is. First, there's civil asset forfeiture. This is a legal process where law enforcement can seize your property if they suspect it was used in a crime or purchased with illicit funds. And here's the key part. They don't have to charge you with a crime. They don't have to convict you. They just have to suspect. In Florida, law enforcement agencies seized over $260 million in property in 2023. Most of it was never returned, even after charges were dropped or never filed. Because once they take your property, the burden of proof is on you to prove it wasn't involved in criminal activity. And most people don't have the money or the legal resources to fight a 2-year court battle to get their house back. Second, there's eminent domain. In 2024, the city of Miami used eminent domain to acquire 12 waterfront properties for a public infrastructure project. The owners were compensated, but at assessed value, not market value. If your property is in the path of a government project, or if it's in a declared climate emergency zone, or if the city decides they need your land for affordable housing, they can force you to sell. And the compensation is almost always below what you could get on the open market. Third, there's the taxation route. Florida has no state income tax, but property taxes are rising fast. In Palm Beach County, the average property tax bill increased by 18% between 2023 and 2025. And if you can't pay, the county can foreclose on your property and auction it off to cover the tax debt. You don't have to miss a mortgage payment. You just have to fall behind on your property taxes, and the government can take your home. So here's the speculation. In a financial crisis, you can expect emergency property taxes. You can expect wealth taxes on high-value real estate. You can expect mandatory government buyouts in strategic zones, especially along the coast where climate change is being used as justification for sweeping regulatory changes. The only protection is to hold your real estate in an offshore LLC with a non-US trustee, or to leverage it heavily so that there's no equity for the government to seize. If your property has a mortgage that's 80 or 90% of its value, it's not an attractive target. But if you own your home outright and it's worth $2 million, you're sitting on an asset that the government can easily identify, appraise, and take. Asset number 4 is cryptocurrency and digital assets. And this is where a lot of people get overconfident. They think crypto is anonymous. They think it's outside the system. They think the government can't track it. All of that is wrong. Crypto is not anonymous. It's pseudonymous. That means your identity isn't directly attached to your wallet, but every transaction is recorded on a public blockchain that anyone can see. And the IRS has gotten very, very good at tracking crypto. In 2024, they added a checkbox to the 1040 form asking if you received, sold, or exchanged any digital assets. In 2025, the infrastructure bill mandated that all crypto brokers, exchanges, wallet providers, DeFi platforms, report transactions to the IRS. Coinbase, Kraken, Binance, they're all required to send 1099 forms for every user. If your crypto is on an exchange, it's already tracked. And even if you move it to a private wallet, the blockchain records every transaction. The moment you bought that Bitcoin on Coinbase, they have your identity, your social security number, and your wallet address. They can see every transaction you've ever made from that wallet. The only privacy comes from using mixers or privacy coins like Monero, but those are now classified as high risk by FinCEN. Using them can trigger an investigation for money laundering. So here's the speculation. In a crisis, you can expect an executive order requiring all U.S. citizens to report their crypto holdings or face penalties. They'll frame it as anti-money laundering. They'll frame it as national security. They'll say that terrorists and drug dealers use crypto, so we need to know who has it. And the IRS has already hired over 87,000 new agents, many of them trained in blockchain forensics. If you hold significant crypto and you haven't moved it offline into cold storage with no KYC ties, you are exposed. The protection strategy here is simple but requires action now. Move your crypto off exchanges immediately. Use privacy coins for transactions where possible. Store the rest in cold storage wallets, hardware wallets that have never been connected to an exchange that required identity verification. And if you're holding large amounts, consider using a decentralized exchange in a jurisdiction that doesn't have automatic reporting agreements with the US. It's not foolproof, but it makes you a much harder target. Asset number 5 is precious metals, gold, silver, platinum. And this is the one asset class that is both liquid and historically outside government reach. But that doesn't mean it's safe. Let me tell you why. In 1933, the U.S. government made private gold ownership illegal under Executive Order 6102. Citizens were required to surrender their gold to the Federal Reserve or face 10 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. It stayed illegal until 1974. Think about that. For 41 years, American citizens could not legally own gold. The government confiscated it, and the precedent exists for them to do it again. Today, any purchase of gold or silver over $10,000 requires the dealer to file a Form 8230 with the IRS. If you buy large quantities from multiple dealers to avoid that reporting threshold, that's structuring, a federal crime. And if you store your metals in a third-party vault, the government knows where it is because the vault is regulated and subject to audit. Right now in Florida, coin dealers are reporting unprecedented demand. I've talked to dealers in Tampa, Miami, Jacksonville. They're all saying the same thing. Wait times for physical delivery are up to 6 weeks. High net worth individuals are buying now because they know that in a crisis, gold is the first thing that gets confiscated or made illegal to trade. And the reason is simple. Gold is money. It's been money for 5,000 years. And when fiat currencies collapse, people run to gold. Governments can't print gold. They can't inflate it. They can't control it. So they make it illegal. Here's the speculation. In a hyperinflation scenario or banking collapse, expect a gold recall similar to 1933. The government will offer to buy it back at below market rates, and failure to comply will result in criminal penalties. They'll say it's necessary to stabilize the currency. They'll say it's patriotic, and most people will comply because they're scared of going to prison. The only protection is to hold physical gold offshore in a non-reportable jurisdiction, or to hold it yourself in a location where no one can find it. I'm not telling you to break the law. I'm telling you that the only truly safe gold is gold that no one knows you have. And that means buying in small increments below reporting thresholds, paying cash and storing it yourself. Not in a bank vault, not in a third-party storage facility, in your possession. So those are the 5 assets they will seize first. Bank accounts, retirement accounts, real estate, cryptocurrency, precious metals. Now let me give you the legal playbook for how to protect them. The difference between protected wealth and seized wealth is not how much you have. It's how well you structure ownership. And there are 4 strategies that high net worth individuals are using right now. Strategy 1. Offshore trusts and LLCs. If you set up a trust or LLC in Florida, it's public record. Anyone can look it up. But if you establish an irrevocable trust in the Cook Islands or Nevis with a non-US trustee, it becomes nearly impossible for US courts to compel asset disclosure. The key word is irrevocable. You cannot be forced to hand over assets you no longer legally control. Now, you still have to report this to the IRS. It's not tax evasion. but it creates a legal barrier that makes seizure extremely difficult. Strategy 2. Self-directed IRAs with offshore custody. Most retirement accounts are held by U.S. custodians that are subject to IRS control. But a self-directed IRA allows you to hold physical gold, real estate, or private placements in offshore jurisdictions. The IRS still requires reporting, but the assets are outside U.S. borders and much harder to freeze. Strategy 3. Privacy coins and cold storage for crypto. If you hold cryptocurrency, move it off exchanges immediately. Use privacy coins like Monero for transactions where anonymity matters. Store the rest in cold storage wallets with no KYC ties. The moment your crypto touches a regulated exchange, it's tracked. Keep it off the grid. Strategy 4. Physical metals with no paper trail. Buy gold and silver in small increments below reporting thresholds. Pay cash. Store it yourself. Not in a bank vault. Not in a safe deposit box. In your home or on your property in a location that only you know about. The only truly safe gold is gold that no one knows you have. Now here's the reality. The window to implement these strategies is closing. Once capital controls are in place, it becomes illegal to move money offshore without government approval. Once emergency powers are declared, it becomes illegal to hold certain assets or to transact in certain ways. The time to act is now. Not during the crisis, not after the banks freeze withdrawals, now. Because by the time you see the warning signs on the evening news, it's already too late. So here's the bottom line. Asset. Seizure is not a conspiracy theory. It's economic policy. Governments have done it before, and they will do it again. The 5 assets most vulnerable to seizure are bank accounts, retirement accounts, real estate, cryptocurrency, and precious metals. In that order. The reason is simple. They're all registered, tracked, or easy to locate. The people who protect their wealth are not the ones with the most money. They're the ones who act early, structure ownership correctly, and understand that privacy is the ultimate form of protection. If your assets are in your name, in a US-based institution, and tied to your social security number, you are exposed. In the next 30 days, I want you to watch for 3 things. Number 1, any expansion of IRS reporting requirements, especially around cash transactions or offshore accounts. That's the first signal that they're tightening the net. Number 2, increase civil asset forfeiture activity at the state level. Florida law enforcement is already aggressive with seizures. If you see a spike in property confiscations, it means they're testing public tolerance for this kind of action. Number 3, any discussion of central bank digital currency or mandatory digital payment systems. That's the endgame. Once cash is eliminated and all transactions are digital, capital controls become automatic. They can freeze your account, they can limit what you can buy, they can track every dollar you spend, and there's nothing you can do about it because physical cash no longer exists. If you see any of those 3 signals accelerate, move your assets immediately. The window between warning and action is measured in days, not months, and the people who wait are the ones who lose everything. If you found this breakdown valuable, if you appreciate the fact that I'm not sugarcoating reality or trying to sell you a course or a coaching program, then you're exactly the type of person who should be subscribed to this channel. I don't cover celebrity gossip. I don't cover clickbait real estate stories about some mansion in Miami Beach. I cover the signal behind the noise, the legislative shifts, the economic indicators, and the moves that high net worth individuals are making before the public catches on. I do the research so you don't have to. And I give it to you straight, no fluff, no filler. So hit that subscribe button if you want to stay ahead of the curve. Hit the like button if this video gave you information you didn't have before. And if you have specific questions about asset protection strategies or Florida-based legal structures, drop them in the comments. I read every single one, and I'll answer as many as I can in future videos. Stay sharp, stay protected, and I'll see you in the next update.